G'day Bomber fans, the 2025 Mick Ablett Cup lived up to the hype. It was the battle of the draft picks. It was kind of a perfect night in many ways. We won the game, but improved our draft hand in the process. That is rare, and that is the fun thing of this season. Yeah, there's plenty to talk about. I did say it was perfect before, but there's obviously what looks to be like an ACL injury to ruckman Nick Bryan. At the time of filming, we don't know. But yeah, it will just be horrendous. We will have every finger crossed with that. Hopefully, by the time this is out, we have news that it's just a scare and nothing more. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, we'll talk about this game. We cruised past the Demons, who are in a world of pain right now. They're not looking good over there, which is looking good for us. Sorry, Demons fans. Remember to leave your votes down in the comments with the role player attached as always. Very tough week for it. I've gone a bit crazy. You'll see later. But let's get into this. Quarter by quarter recap. The first was, it was a really early days. It was looking bad. I mean, for both teams. I mean, the opening 2 or 3 minutes was some of the worst footy you will see. There were mistakes everywhere, it was shocking. But we did compose ourselves. We composed ourselves earlier than the Demons. We started to hit targets, started to get the footy moving well. The Demons didn't. We had a few early chances. Some missed, some scored. Jones kicked the first point and goal of the game. He was busy early. Menzies got his scoring boots on early with our second. There was an odd marking contest for the Dees that resulted in a lucky goal. But aside from that, we were sound defensively and really troubling them around the sticks. We led by a couple of goals at the first break, but you could tell that we were the much better team. The mood down our end of the ground was a lot better than the mood down their end near their cheer squad. The Dees were not looking good to start, and on the flip side, I thought Essendon actually looked like an actual footy team. There was a clear difference in quality between the two sides, and it came to the surface in that first quarter. The second went from bad to worse for the Demons. It was dire in the first, but by half-time, it was bad. They did get it started early. Langdon got them back with a 50-metre penalty, but we piled on the last 4 of the term. Menzies shinned home an absolute flopper of a goal, the ugliest of his 4 finishes. Nate Caddy hit the scoreboard. Shield hit the scoreboard. We were just dominating. We were controlling the ground. Melbourne were doing all the chasing. Our players were everywhere. Shield was enormous. Jai Menzies, I don't know where it's come from. He was Eddie Betts. He was Lionel Messi. And then our defenders were so solid, keeping them to 2 goals. By the way, they had 27 inside 50s at halftime. 2 goals. That is a goal every 13 and a half inside 50s. That is tremendous defending. Yeah, that's going to keep the haters quiet in the comments for another week because Ben Mackay was a big part of that. So was Andy McGrath. So was Zach Reed. All our back 6 were enormous. The third, look, at halftime, I was saying to my sister who I was with that the Bombers are the most overly complacent team in these scenarios. That we were 5 goals up, momentum our way. Most teams would win. Most teams would put the foot on the throat, and but it did get awkward for a little bit there. We let the D's back in. We kicked 4 straight in the second. They kicked 4 straight in the third. They just reduced that lead that we worked so hard to create, and it was really, I think it was just a 5 or 10 minute period of play. I mean, they threw Petty forward, which worked because it got Bailey Fritsch off the leash. You could tell the Petty move did throw us a bit because it forced Reed to switch, which forced Ridley to move taller and play a different role. There was a bit of dysfunction going on while we came to terms with this move, with this coaching from Goodwin. But yeah, even me complaining about that is clutching at straws, because that 5 to 10 minute period, that was the only time I felt unsafe watching as a fan. The D's looked good for that period, but only for half a quarter. We did rally late as well. We kicked a couple of late goals with Durza and Martin hitting the scoreboard to grow that margin out and make me feel at home and at ease a little bit more. And the final term, it was just Essendon again. 5 goals to 1. It was party time. We just controlled the ground, controlled the air. Everything went our way. There was some fun footy being played too. Hobbs and Caddy doubled up. Redmond kicked a typical Red Dog goal from outside 50. I loved that. Menzies got his 4th right before the siren. 4 goals for Menzies. Where has that come from? Was that Jai Menzies? Was that someone in a mask? Was that Lionel Messi in a mask? I don't know. It was a good finish to the game. The hill was vibing. The cheer squad was vibing. We ran out winners very comfortably in the end. And the great thing is, we did that following a response. The D's questioned us in the third. We answered. The Bombers by 39 in the end. Cheeky percentage boost. So let's talk about this game. How did we get the dub? Well, there was a pretty clear way the game was playing out for me. It felt like the Demons would win it out of the centre. We would defend pretty much every entry. And then there was this arm wrestle to move the ball up the field and get us territory back the other way. And it was interesting because I felt like we had to even out the midfield battle to be in the game before it started. But the Dees were on top. The stoppage tally is a bit deceiving because there's always, there's so much freedom as to how many numbers you can throw in there. I saw both teams with extras at times. But for me, centre bouncers, that is the important one to really get that early territory. And they were killing us. 16-7 centre bouncers, clearances. But I was never really that worried by them. I think we only scored, let me just double check, I've got the stats up. I think we only scored conceded one behind from centre bounce clearances, which if true, and if I'm not yapping, that would be pretty crazy. I'm just scrapping to find it. They scored one behind from centre bounce clearances despite having so much more than us. So our backline was defending tremendously. We didn't look like conceding. Yes, the D's were getting that important territory that I talked about in the preview, that they beat us in inside 50s, 51-43. So they had the ball where they wanted it more than us. But I mean, both from shoddy entries and elite defending, we kept them down. And it was only really a 5 to 10 minute period in the third that I talked about that got them anywhere near us in that game of footy. I mean, the way they were playing near us. That they kicked 5 goals in the third, 4 straight. They only kicked 4 other goals for the game aside from that 4-goal run in the 5 to 10 minutes. So, I mean, yeah, credit to our defenders. They genuinely never looked like scoring despite entering more than us. That back six, it's been under the pump this year, but they won the game for us last night. And for once, we can say we wouldn't have won that game if Mackay or Reid weren't playing. They were great. Ridley wasn't as defensively accountable, but he was doing plenty the other way. McGrath and Pickett, Pryor was good. The whipping boys came to play, and it was good to see. I thought we also just controlled the ground so much better than they did. It was pretty confronting watching it live, just how different these two teams played. It was probably the best we've played in a while. Melbourne helped us with that. Or maybe not best, maybe most professionally we've played in a while, actually. Let's put that tagline there. So, as bad as Melbourne was, I was really impressed with the way we just controlled every aspect of the game in open play, because that's how the game was won in the end. It's funny because I talked about the contest being important, but in the end it was open play. I love the way we shifted the tempo. There was one stage after that run of goals where we just needed to go slower and stem their flow, and it worked. We got the game back on our terms thanks to some boring kick-to-kick, and sometimes that's all it takes, just over-possessing the footy. I love the way we controlled the air. We were so much taller. I was worried about our height going into it, but we had them clueless at times. I thought Draper in particular was massive for this. It seemed like they were kicking to avoid him. He had a solid 20 metres around him that was almost a turnover zone that they had to avoid, because if they kicked it there, he was either clunking a contested mark or bringing the ball to ground. People are going to talk about the Demons going sideways a lot. I think we should be talking about the way we set up behind the ball instead, because we really killed any ball movement out of their defence. At this stage of the round, they had the least metres gained by any team. The AFL average was almost 6,000 metres gained per club. The D's had 5,300, so they were just getting nothing going at all anywhere. They were winning it out of the middle and doing nothing with it. They were doing sweet FA in transition. To say we had this game on our terms is an absolute understatement. We weren't letting them do anything. And on the flip side, I want to talk about our ball movement, because this really impressed me. I think it's almost the best it's been in ages. I don't know. Now, it wasn't exciting. We'll start with that. It wasn't Gold Coast or Adelaide or GWS moving the footy. It wasn't that fast and dynamic play through the middle of the ground. But what Melbourne really like to do is throw numbers back in defence to defend entries easier. It's a big reason why they don't concede huge scores, but also why they don't move the footy well the other way. And when they did that, when they threw numbers back, there was a clear directive for us to, if we had the whistle blown in our favour, to just go backwards. And at times it was from our wing into D50, just going side to side, spreading the ground, reducing the numbers in front of the kick, in front of the contest, bringing Melbourne players towards the ball, which brought less numbers in our forward 50. So we were reducing the numbers in our forward 50, reducing the clutter, and then we would find space, we'd chip around. Ridley and Reid were really important with this. We'd slowly but surely move our way up the field until we had less numbers inside 50 and then a better spot to enter. It was calculated, it was measured, it was strategic, and it was a big reason why we had so much more of the footy. We had almost 100 more disposals. We went at 77%, by the way. The Demons went at 70%, so we were much more efficient. The AFL average for uncontested possessions is 220. We had almost 300. And again, it's the same old story with Melbourne as last week. Those uncontested marks, 103 uncontested marks for Essendon. The Demons just let their opponents have too much of the footy. They let us do what we wanted. We weren't letting them anywhere near it. It was pretty dire to watch. I'm an Essendon fan. I was sitting back thinking, what can Melbourne do to turn this around? Because it was bad. And then I remembered, of course, that we have their first round draft pick. So let's hope they don't turn it around. I hope these issues mount because it's helping us. Sorry again, Melbourne fans. Yeah, look, in reality, that was an Essendon team who are probably sitting between top 8 contention and bottom 4 in that zone. I don't think that proved to me that, we're going to be anything this year. But, I mean, wins like that are really important for the future. That's just a professional win. And what I really liked about this game is that the Dees did come to play for a bit. I reckon 80% of this game was on our terms, and that was great. But there was one period where we had to stand tall. The Demons turned up. They reduced the margin to 2 goals at one stage. We had to respond. And I was thinking, Essendon are back. We're choking again. But to put the foot on the throat and just, go about business as usual after that Demons response, we answered their questions. We didn't get scared. We didn't panic. We remained composed. And I think that's the word of the night, maybe. I think against Port, it was all about that manic pressure. Here against the Dees, it's composure. In a few areas, we were composed in front of goals. We were accurate all night. We were composed down back. We lost it out of the middle, but we didn't lose our heads. We were composed when moving the footy. We weren't, blazing away, going too early, and we remained patient. It was a very composed and measured and professional game of footy. Just, professional. It's never easy to be overly thrilled when you beat a team like this because Melbourne are not anything great this year. But Essendon never smash anyone. We haven't won a game this easy since maybe 2023. So for us to go out and beat our B.O.G team, they've beaten us a lot over the years, beat them easily. That is exactly what we needed. Wins like this, they give you a bit of faith for the future. We could have gone out in an arm wrestle and won by a few goals and been happy, but, not thrilled. But yeah, I mean, rinse and repeat with 2024 if that's the case. But no, we went out and got the job done comfortably in the end. We've got another lowly team that we get to play next week, and I'm hoping it's the same story. The Eagles in Perth. But yes, there's still plenty of work to do. Good midfields are going to enjoy playing us. Not a perfect night. The centre bounce tally was not ideal. Nick Bryan, obviously, results are probably going to be out by the time this video is live. It is a suspected ACL at the time of recording, and a lot of the time when you suspect it's an ACL, it is one. It's pretty easy to tell. So best of luck to Nick. You've got the fan base behind you. But let's end on a high. Let's get through the votes from the game. Okay, votes. Don't hate me, but I'm going to be pretty funky here. So at the game last night, I tried doing something different. I wrote down my votes before rewatching and before looking at stats or anything. I didn't have my phone out. So this is purely a vibe test vote. For the first time all year, by the way. And I was actually gonna, incorporate this somehow without just full on doing it. But I think it's really interesting what I came up with and the difference between, I guess, who was the best player and who was the most important. So I guess these votes today are the most important. And I expect you guys to go with your best. So you'll see Merritt and Shield in there, I hope, because they really do deserve some love. But yeah, we're gonna go with this. You guys are definitely going to counter it out with some common sense. But one vote to Jai Menzies. I thought he was awesome. I don't know where that came from. It was his best game at the club. And the great thing is, people wanted him out. So for him to respond like that is awesome. So great stuff to Jai Menzies. Zach Reed, 2 votes. He was a rock down back. He was spoiling everything that came his way. So he was crucial for our defending. But the way he was moving the pill, that was really important too. So he was crucial for us in multiple ways down back, and I think he was one of our most important players for that reason. So he gets 2 votes, and 3 votes to Sam Draper. Now, this one might confuse some people. I thought he was the most important player on the ground, and I know that Gawn technically won the ruck battle, but the fact that Draper had to go full-time ruck after Brian's injury and play out more of the game than he would have liked, but also just dominate the air. Young kids say the word aura a lot. Draper had that in spades. He was taking speckies, nailing 60-metre passes, owning huge portions of the field. He had the grass was his territory, but there was also this unbelievable play where he smothered that hand pass on the mark and tapped it along the boundary. He lowered his eyes. Sam Draper lowered his eyes. That's how you know he played well. He could have gone for goal of the year. I would have liked him to be honest. I was disappointed he didn't, but he lowered his eyes and found Merritt inside 50. I thought Draper was fantastic. You can take out some of the best midfielders. You can take out Merritt and Shield, and we probably still get the job done. But without Draper, who knows what would have happened. I thought his presence alone was winning us that game and making us more comfortable with the margin. Role player Ben Mackay, he had Van Rooyen so deep in his pocket. He was in his wallet. He wasn't in his pocket. So Van Rooyen only had 1 disposal when playing as a forward, but also Mackay was intercepting. 8 for the game, which is a game high, 6 spoils, 8 one-on-ones, by the way. That is crazy. I haven't seen numbers like that in a while. But yeah, clearly I'm missing Merritt and Martin and Durham and Shield in particular, who was my 4th. Merritt was 5th. But yeah, then I saw the stats and I've probably got it wrong. You guys would understand that, but I like the idea of just for this game, because I was there and did it, just happened to be doing it in my notes, going with the most important, because I think the defence won us the game. Draper was really important. The midfield was great, but we did lose the centre-bounce pretty clearly. But yeah, leave your votes down in the comments down below. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and as always, go Bombers.